Yes, could I just mention that in this recall of the contact with this mum and daughter, it's a sort of writing of history, isn't it? And I'm adding to it. I'm changing on reflection what I'm thinking. And it starts to get into the story so that I'm rewriting history. No historical record is simply data. It's partial data. It chooses some things and ignores others. It's missing, for instance, the enormous amount of thought that went into the experience at the time. So you could have been thinking certain things at the time but not said them. And it ends up in the history as if it was said and done. You have to remember that no history is simply a black and white picture of what was in the past. A history is something for the present. It's the result of the past looked through the present's eyes, the eyes of the present, of the person recounting. So that you don't just get a recount, you get his present view of what was and even what should have been. I'm not saying this is good, bad, or indifferent. I'm simply saying this is what seems to be the case. So for argument's sake, we might say an account of an event is a bit romanticized. It misses out the bad. It misses out the fact that perhaps I was tiresomely long in saying these things at the time. You know, and you can bring a sort of critical eye to it as you rewrite the history. In this case, re-record, of course. Amazingly, the past is constantly being updated. And as occurs to me, for symmetry, the future perhaps is constantly being downdated. I'm living the future as I see it and want to see it, or fear seeing it, from this perspective of the present. And I'm viewing the future accordingly. And then, of course, this futuricity is changed or reinterpreted as my present changes. And I see the possible futures in a different way. So both the future and the past are a blessing or a curse to us, depending on how we are rewriting them in our current present. And of course the Buddhist has seen that. He thinks, well, the world's full of suffering because you're constantly dwelling on the things that went wrong in the past and the things that could go wrong in the future. So let's just think about the present. Well, you need a horrendous stroke of ability to just think about the present, to just be. And that state is considered a wonderful enlightenment. But it's not necessarily terribly good for the future. Now, the Buddhists would unquestionably disagree with me here. But I would say as a stark reminder that Buddhist monks not taking into account the effect of the destruction of, say, their way of life in Tibet, the possibility of that and the best avoidance strategy was probably not taken up. And certainly the onlooker thinks that this was an appalling cost. It would be better if not just the Dalai Lama had escaped, but all the people that were it possible, all the people that were at risk of their life being, from their perspective, terribly changed. So we have to have a way of looking at our present and our future and our past that is a blessing. Well, the world will reply, trusting God for it is a dangerous way if it means not taking necessary precautions because you're not aware of the possible evils, especially of the future. So, Heavenly Father, how do I give that right attention to avoiding possible bad futures? Well, in the very activity that I'm doing here, use the present to focus on wise choices, wise decision making. And then you can rejoice now in thinking of the possible bads of the future, because you are comforted by both trusting God for them and knowing how to avoid them. This is what wisdom is, isn't it? It's living in a way, in a fashion, that brings blessing and not curse, that brings life. I'm come that you might have life. I'm concerned about your future, and I'm concerned in a very trusting way to take hold of that way of living which makes the future good. We're in a world of uncertainty, that is true, but we can in large measure move to what's going to be a good future as opposed to harm. We can greatly improve the future by being wise. And that's pretty clear, isn't it? Thank you, Heavenly Father. So, as parents, we notice what the child's doing wrong, our kiddie. We encourage the good. We think of the opposite. For instance, in this particular case of this little girl, she wasn't being very charitable and kind and concerned for her brother and her brothers, and so at some point in the future we can say, or even in the present, if we're not damaging the situation by criticizing, we can say, think how you feel, love, if you were him and you're being left out, because sweets are very important to him, aren't they? So it would have been such a blessing to well, it's nice to help and love brother, isn't it? Just as like I love and help you. It's great. I just enjoy sharing my lunch with you, because to have lunch with you knowing that you enjoy it and me, well, it's such a joy, isn't it? So don't miss that opportunity next time, love. Share, because sharing is fellowship and family, and we're very important to each other, aren't we? And we don't want anyone left out, eh? Love you, girl. You're a sweetheart. You're an absolute sweetheart to me. Now, what should we do? And, we pass on. So be as encouraging and as loving as you are well able to be. And you will find such wisdom, such blessing, such a good future. It unfolds in a lovely way. Everything we are, you see, is relationship. If I harken back to the Buddhists again, they get it right there. They realize, hang on, are we just a focus of all these relationships? It's certainly what gives us meaning, isn't it? Whether it's to objects or whether it's to people We want the right relationship. Loving, helpful, harmonious, kind, safe and true. Thank you, Heavenly Father. So the obvious, we say, oh, hey, let's go in the supermarket, shall we? Choose yourself a bar of chocolate. You go to the cash desk and you give it to her, having bought it, of course. And you just see what she does. She gives half of it to her brother and loves doing it. Wow. Thank you, Dad. How lovely. You see, I am come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. Love you, Dad. Love you, Heavenly Dad. And she'll love you, of course, because you've rescued her from all the selfishness that she's going to see in the world. It's not in her. Wow. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. Thank you, Dad.